Welcome back to Witty and Laodicea. Today's mini episode brought to you about the concept of the Equality Act. Why? Because the Equality Act, in my opinion, is very dangerous. I am A.T. Martinez, and let's take a look at this. The Equality Act, which is a new act for Congress, was just recently passed by the House. What it seeks to do is incorporate protections against LGBT discrimination into the Federal Civil Rights Act of 1964. Specifically, it prohibits discrimination based on sex, sexual orientation, and gender identity in a wide variety of areas, including public accommodations and facilities, education, federal funding, employment, housing, and credit. It also seeks to expand the existing civil rights protections for people of color, women, and other minority groups by updating the definition of public accommodations to include places or establishments that provide exhibitions, recreation, exercise, amusement, gatherings, or displays, goods and services or programs, and transportation services. Alright. On the surface, this sounds like a good thing. And a lot of people are going to sit back going, what, you don't think people should be treated fair? Yes, I do think everybody should be treated fair. The problem is going to come up very quick, though. This bill specifically exempts itself from the Religious Freedom Act. Let's take a look at what the opponents to this bill are saying. Some feminists and women's rights organizations have opposed wording in the bill which defines sex to include gender identity. They maintain this engenders sex-based rights of women and girls, citing females' rights to their own sports and their own spaces such as locker rooms. What this means is that under this law, if it is passed, the difference between people is not going to be based on your biology, which means that women's locker rooms will now be open to men who identify as women. Women's sports can now be played by men who identify as women. Women's prisons can now have men in them. Shelters can have men in them. There's a lot. The women's groups realize that this is a direct attack on them. Let's face it, if a man can sit there, if a man sits back and tries to be in a track and field, and he continually doesn't make the top, if he turns around and identifies as a woman, he can get into the top groupings. Why? Because there are biological differences between men and women, and one of which involves the way the muscles work. Men tend to be faster than women. They tend to be stronger than women. By using this biological advantage, men will, yes, they will be, quote, trans men, but they will have an unfair advantage in women's sports. We've already seen this starting to happen as men are competing in women's sports and girls' sports in high school. The women are getting boxed out. And so women's groups are finding this is not good. The idea that all a man has to do is say I identify as a woman, and he can go in and use a woman's locker room. Now, some people don't seem to see a problem in this. I have this picture in my mind of the locker rooms when I was in high school. The lockers would sit in a row, 2 rows forming an aisle, and you changed in front of your locker. You went to the shower, which was not a single shower, it was multiple shower heads into a shower complex, which means that if you're sitting there and you are a woman biologically, and a man who's not a biological man who comes in has the right to watch you undress. He goes in, takes a shower with you. Your biology is not the same. Your physiology is not the same. In my book, this is evil. It's not just evil, it's dangerous. Because when that man decides that he wants to take advantage of that woman, there's not going to be much to stop them. So let's continue on and look at what else this thing says and what some of the other opponents are saying. There's a wide selection of women's groups who want to have the bill. They don't want it passed unless it, hold on here, let me scroll back up just a little bit, unless it first is amended to protect sex and not gender identity, meaning they want the right. I'm a woman. I want to go to the bathroom in a woman's bathroom and not have to share that bathroom with men. Several groups have proposed amendments to the Act. Continuing on. Abigail Schreiner argued in the Wall Street Journal in 2019 that the Equity Act would put women and girls at a physical risk by allowing any biological male to self-identify as a female and gain access to women's spaces such as locker rooms and battered women's shelters. In addition, she stated that biological boys who identify as girls would gain instant entitlement to compete on girls' teams in all 50 states. Again, this is just repeating what we've said. Let's go down and see what some of the other things are saying. Let's go down. Okay, in 2019, the Federalist described the Equity Act as a power grab in the guise of anti-discrimination, stating that it essentially abolishes legal recognition of sex as a physical reality by incorporating gender identity or the perception of sex into a legal definition. Basically, what it's saying is the biological definition of sex is thrown out. It's all what people can come up with. Now, why is this a problem with us? Why should Christians be upset about this? Well, they should be upset about it because the way this bill can be used. Number one, it can be used to help some guy come in and assault your wife, your daughter, your girlfriend, your friends. The idea of stopping discrimination is fine. It's a great thing. But whenever you do so at the expense of others, you're not helping. Okay, a lot of Christian groups have a problem with it because by exempting this bill from the recognition from being covered under the religious, basically your religious views are not going to be allowed to prevent this from being applied, which means that if your church runs let's say your church runs a food shelter or gives out food, you're required to accept it and make accommodations according to people's perceived gender and their believed gender. This means that churches are going to be forced to accept, to allow men and women to share the same bathroom. This is not good. By specifically ignoring or blocking religious rights, you're going to get, what you get is, well, let's take a look and see what they say. On March 20th, 2019, the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops sent a letter to the United States Senate opposing this on the grounds of freedom of expression and freedom of religion, among other concerns. On May 7th, a coalition of Christian organizations sent a letter to the House opposing the Equity Act. They stated it undermines religious freedoms, threatens charitable nonprofits and the people they serve, regulates free speech, hinders quality health care, and endangers the privacy and safety of women and girls. A large number of Christian societies signed up on this, and the reason is, again, they're allowing men and women they're requiring that men and women can go into the same bathroom. They can use the same lockers. The other thing is, this also affects Christian churches. This affects Christian hospitals. According to Bill Donahue, the Catholic leader for religious and civil rights, the Equity Act is the most comprehensive assault on religious liberty, the right to life, and the privacy rights ever packaged in one bill. His concern was that Catholic hospitals will no longer be allowed to govern as Catholic facilities, threatening health care for everyone, especially the poor. What they're saying is that by forcing the Catholics or any religious organization like the Presbyterians who run hospitals to abide by this, you're telling them they have to give up their religious views and instead abide by this law. This would require then that a person, for example, hospitals would be required to perform transformative operations, even if that is against their religious views. This whole Equity Act opens a can of worms that can be used to attack Christianity very easily. Your church doesn't let men go into the women's bathroom? Not allowed. What they will end up doing is saying that anything and everything that doesn't accept this Sister Carol Keenan, president of the Catholic Health Association, sent a letter to lawmakers in the House expressing concern the act, as written, would roll back religious liberty protections. Federal law has long recognized that certain services can present conflict for some faith-based healthcare providers with religious or moral objections to providing those services, and protected them from having to do so. She states, "We are concerned the Equity Act omits and could erode or reduce those protections. The legislation," she said, "lacks conscience and protectionist language and precludes applications of the Religious Freedom Restoration Act." The bill, this is the part of the bill that specifically exempts itself from Religious Freedom and Restoration Act, meaning that you can't say that doing these things or allowing these things is part of your faith, or not allowing them is in conflict with your faith. Your faith doesn't matter. Now, as I said, this is, to me, one of the very first broadsides in the battle against Christianity. By telling the faithful that if you wish to help people, you must do so under their rules and allow and, in a sense, promote views that you feel are immoral. Well, what that's going to do is that's going to end up getting Christians and Christian organizations out of the helping business. Because when you're given a choice between helping people and doing so in a way that advocates and promotes immorality, that's a very extreme conflict. And a lot of people will finally say, fine, we're going to close our doors. This is going to hurt the poor. The people that count on religious organizations helping them. As I said, this is the first step, because the next thing they're going to do is they're going to say that by churches refusing to perform gay marriages, for example, that they are discriminating against gay people. Their religious viewpoints are irrelevant. That'll be the second blow. Then they're going to start prosecuting our preachers, our priests, our religious leaders for doing anything that opposes the LGBT lifestyle. This is not fear-mongering, folks. This is reality. The Southern Poverty Law Center already goes out and deems that anybody who does not support LGBT rights and the LGBT lifestyle as hate groups. When they get it codified in the law, they're going to come after the churches. We've seen them start this before. We saw in Houston where the mayor, an openly gay mayor, tried to subpoena all the sermons of the churches in Houston, looking for anything that discriminated against or attacked gay people. Look, I'm not saying that we should attack gay people, but I am telling you that being gay and living in a gay lifestyle is not covered under the Bible. It's actually condemned. And if your religious viewpoint says this is wrong, then you have every right to say this in your church. If your beliefs are that a man and a woman should not be taking showers together, especially if they're not married, then you shouldn't be forced to allow this to happen in your building. This law requires that to happen. If you have a gym in your church, a lot of churches do now. If you have a locker room, you would have to allow men and women to use the same locker room, to use the same bathroom. As a father, this bill is evil. This is a dangerous bill. It's a dangerous law, and it's going to be very, very bad when it's implemented. Has this bill passed, Jim? I told you it passed the House. It's got to go to the Senate. This is your chance to go out there and get a hold of your senator and tell them, no, don't do this. We've got to stop bills like this. If we do not stop this type of bill, immorality is going to increase. I'm not saying it's right to discriminate against a gay person at work or somebody who calls himself a transvestite or whatever they wish to call themselves. I'm not saying it's right to discriminate against them on housing or in several of the other categories that are listed. But you can't force people to accept it. You can't force people to promote it. And when you're looking at less than 20% of the country, the idea that you're going to make 80% conform to the 20 is not right. I mean, that isn't even democracy. That's just flat out abuse. Now, this is a warning. And so, what I want you to do, pray. Let your brothers and sisters in your church know about this act. All of you get a hold of your senators. Get this bill stopped. And if not, pray to the Lord for all the help you can be given. You're going to have to make some choices. This has been a mini on the Equity Act. I'm A.T. Martinez. This is Waiting in Laodicea, here to try to help you and inform you. But I want you to realize something. This is the beginning. This is not the end. It is going to get worse for us. We need to prepare. If you like this show, please hit the like button. subscribe, notifications, all the things like this. You may not think this is helpful, but it is very helpful. We need to get to 1,000 subscribers to get monetized. More importantly than just getting monetized, we need to get more and more people involved so that we can light the fire and start warming up this lukewarm society we live in. Help us financially. We appreciate all the help you can get. If you want to actually contribute some time and effort, send us an email. Tell us what you can do and what you'd like to do, and maybe we can work something out where you can help us out. We could use lots of help. You can, if you wish to contribute financially, you can do so through this platform. You can find us on other platforms, or you can go to the website, which is www.waitinginlaodicea, all one word, .weebly.com. I'm A.T. Martinez, and I hope you have a blessed week. Thank you.